Hello, this is Ipo Swords, and today we're going to be talking about these. These are French swords from the Imperial Marine Guard, or Sabre de Marin de la Garde imperiale, and they were used during the Napoleonic era and shortly after. However, there's something off about these images. Can you tell what? They're fakes. Let's have a look at an original one and compare some of the features to these modern reproductions. On your screen now, you can see an original French Sabre de la Garde imperiale, and you'll note that it has a few distinctive features. Now on screen, you can see two copies by Indian companies, Weapons Edge and Universal Swords respectively. There's a few telltale signs. Let's examine them closer and have a look at them. Let's start by looking at the hilt. This is the fakes example, and you'll note that it has a very deeply stamped anchor on the hilt, as well as having a more pronounced casting in the area around the pommel. On the original, you'll note that the stamping is much shallower, as you can see here, and it is much less even and perfect than the one on the reproduction. On the obverse side, which does not have the stamping, you'll note the same overly pronounced decorative element on the pommel of the sword. You'll also note that the originals have a much more evenly rounded pommel, as compared to the slightly elongated version on the fakes. Next we'll look at the engraving that's on the blade of these swords. On the fakes, you'll note that it is done via rotary tool or diamond tip tool, stenciled off of a secondary image, whereas on the original it has a much finer appearance, having none of the rough edges and wide lettering. It is very distinctly different, as you can tell best by looking at an unartificially aged modern reproduction, which has wide letters with rough edges and a very rough surface in the letters. The same sort of error can be seen on the spine. You'll note that the M here in Manufacture de Klingenthal Coulard is cut off at the bottom, and that's because it's done from a stencil. The same can be seen here on the first M in Manuf for Manufacture. The other issue is the tip of these swords, which, while clipped, does not feature a pronounced concave shape like the original would. On the fake, and indeed on the reproduction by Weapons Edge, you can see that it is almost straight, featuring only a few small degrees of the concave appearance, whereas on the original it is rather pronounced, being a true clipped point. These swords normally sell for between $2,000 and $4,000 US, and the reproductions can be bought for as little as $400 or so US, so it's an obvious target for people making fakes of these swords. However, there are a few very minor and very subtle telltale issues. Generally, the best thing to do is look at the patination on these swords, and this is easiest to do by looking at the brass parts, the scabbard most notably. They'll have a very even finish and a very similar colour across all of the parts, and they'll have no wear patterns to them, and you can see that in the images here. It's also worth noting that there'll be differences in casting. On the originals of these swords, there is a decorative flourish on the pommel, near the back strap, and this is flush or flat with the rest of the brass, whereas on the reproductions it's raised about 1 millimeter or so and rounded off. This is one of the telltale signs that this is not an original. As previously shown, the style of engraving is also different, both on the side panel and on the spine. I don't have an original picture of the spine to show you, but you can be certain that it wouldn't have any cut-off letters. I'd like to caution you all to be very careful when buying swords like these, especially of a higher value, and I'd always suggest that you get an expert appraisal on any item you have bought. This has been the first in a series of videos I'll be doing on these fakes, this one being a French marine sword, but I'll also be looking at other common fakes like the 1796 British heavy cavalry sword. This has been Ipo Sword, regrettably reporting on the state of fakes in the sword collecting community. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe to my channel, as there's more content every week. Till next time, stay sharp.